that
for some reason it looked like Bart just kind of levitated into the screen. I don't know why.
Yeah, he did because he does that. He levitates. He is a master levitator. We were going to do a lot of reffing down here. Before we get into reffing down here, is there anything from a national team point of view, men's, women's, Megan Rapinoe getting jerseys retired, to put an umbrella on national team stuff? What's going on in a national team footprint right now? Anything?
I think it just needs to be said that Gotham brought on 2 gold medalists as a sub in their game this past weekend. And that is a flex that I don't think many teams in the world could ever do. It also helps that when we have like half the U.S. women's national team, you do that.
Yeah.
It's not like they just won a title.
Right. Yeah. Both gold medal and Gotham reigning champs.
I think that time Alfredo won the breakup.
That's I think that's it from the women's side. Alyssa Thompson scored for the first time this year, and she broke her blockade with 2 goals, so that's awesome. Christian Pulisic gets a goal. Tyler Adams, as we'll discuss, Bournemouth soon. Still not seen, heard nothing, but so just business as usual on the men's side, unfortunately.
Yes. So we'll get into all of that. So
still no Poch.
No, and this was a question that came up.
Tanner Tessman made a move. He's at Lyon now.
That's right. Tanner Tessman to Lyon.
Well,
I'm just glad he's out of Venezia. I don't think it's going to be. I don't know if it'll be actually good for him. I'm just glad he's out of Venezia.
Well, Celtic wanted him up in Scotland, and I don't know how much they were willing to spend, but I know they wanted to bring him up there. But yeah, I think it's better than Venezia as well.
Yeah,
Venezia's a cool club. It's a fun hip club, but
yeah, they got great gear except for this last jersey release.
There are worse places in the world you could live.
True.
There are, but as far as development, we haven't really seen it with him or Busio.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad he's getting a move. Hopefully that either he can develop at Lyon or he can develop elsewhere. I actually would have liked the Celtic move for him. I think that would have been cool. I'd like to see a former football player go head to head in the with some of the men in the Scottish Premier League.
Yes. Well, speaking of which, I just got my email from West Brom. And apparently they are pleased to confirm the club has completed the signing of midfielder Matt O'Reilly from Celtic for an undisclosed fee. So,
Atalanta dropped the ball on this one. The structure on this was that when Moranchuk was coming to Atlanta, they were discussing with Matt. They made like 4 or 5 bids for Matt O'Reilly, who had no business not being on the Danish Euro squad, by the way. It's been outstanding. But yeah, they kept trying to lowball Celtic after like 4 or 5 bids of that. I think Celtic blocked their number and just went down to England and said, you know what, just give us the 25 as add-ons and we'll just call it a day.
Yes. So that was where we were with that particular move. Full disclosure, I got the email and it said embargoed 3 p.m. And I'm trying to sit here and do math. And I'm like, okay, embargoed 3 p.m., 1500 minus 5, 10 o'clock. We cleared 10 o'clock, so it was okay to say it. All right. So, Bart, I have tape to go with reffing down here today.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of incidents, and I wanted to discuss them with you. We'll get into the philosophical discussion, which I guess means we'll play Danny Cruz second. We'll start with Bournemouth. And there were 2 incidents, and Alex made some comments early on in the Twitch pitch about them. So the 1-1, it's 1-1 late, and I probably should have pulled the play-by-play instead of just the Irola sound after the match. 1-1 late, and it looks like off a corner, Bournemouth gets a game winner.
Mm-hmm.
But then it goes to VAR, and VAR was picking up their Ticonderoga number 2 pencil, and they said, not so fast, my friend, with Dango Ouattara, checked for a possible handball, and the goal was disallowed.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at that particular incident, please explain to the planet once again this year, when it comes to the jersey and the arm, what it constitutes a handball and how far down the arm we go in this situation.
Right. So I think the first thing you have to understand when you're talking about this specific moment,
right,
is the one thing you are absolutely not allowed to do in this sport is score with any part of your hand or arm. That you are going to be more scrutinous.
Hey, it sounds good to me. It's a word.
You're going to be more scrutinous of a goal when it comes to a handball because you're not allowed to do that, right? We know this. That's literally the whole point of the sport. That is the thing that differentiates us from other footballs, is that we actually do play with our feet and not our hands, whereas all the other footballs, for some reason, use their hands. And so with that, you have to look at this and go, okay, if the jersey is not necessarily the boundary, I think that needs to be said. It is a good, easy way to kind of look at it and go, yeah, okay, the jersey's there. That's about the edge of the armpit, right? But we look at the armpit. So that could be here. It could be here. It's the armpit, right? We look at it through that lens. Sometimes you can use the jersey sleeve as a boundary. Sometimes you can't, because every jersey manufacturer makes their sleeves slightly different. And every player has a slightly different jersey size. I think that this was eventually the right call, and I'm really sorry, Bournemouth fans, but I think it looks like it hits at that boundary. Literally, it looked like it hit right at that boundary on his sleeve. Congrats on having a massive bicep strong enough to put that ball into the goal. But it did look like it was a handball.
Okay.
And when I watched it live, I was like, where was the handball? And then you watch it back and go, oh, because he didn't actually hit it with his head. And that's the other thing, is he clearly did not hit it with his head. And it wasn't on his shoulder. It definitely was somewhere in between shoulder and elbow. And it looked like it hit probably on that boundary line, which in our case here means it's a handball. And unfortunately, the goal is disallowed.
Yes. So here is Andoni Iraola, the manager for Bournemouth, after the match, doing his spleen venting for about 90 seconds.
Downey, we'll start with where the game finished. There's plenty of talking points at the end. What was your view of how the game finished?
I think it's unfair for the players, because now with the performance they had, we are just going to talk about the disallowed goal. No? I think it's so decisive in the game, the goal. It's so obvious, the mistake, that we cannot focus in the other things. I think it's they take us another 2 points. I don't understand, because the referee cannot do anything else. He gives the goal. He doesn't even have the chance to watch it in the images, in the TV, in the VAR. They will say something factual after seeing the play. Is if everyone thinks it's not a handball, if the ball goes especially so strong after hitting the shoulder, it doesn't touch the skin of Dango. The only chance if you stop the ball earlier or later, so you can say, no, it's touching the skin. No, it's not touching the skin. You see it live, it's not touching the skin. He scores with the, and the books they give us at the beginning of the season is clear. They put a horizontal line here saying, no, they disallow us the goals against Nottingham Forest, because they take the last part of the shoulder of Lewis Cook and they put the lines, and you have to believe because they put the lines, and you say, okay, we have to accept because you can score a goal with the shoulder. This is what happened today, and it's the same shoulder the past week, and this week is the same shoulder, and it's frustration, but nobody will remember in 2 weeks. We will have 2 points less. They will ask me, no, you haven't won in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, if we don't win difficult games, and nothing happens.
So obviously, and Iraola is absolutely correct. In 2 weeks, unless we have another incident, no one's going to remember this incident, and they're going to sit there and go, yeah, you've lost 3 in a row. What's wrong? I mean, and that's the way it is in the Premier League. By the way, Dale Johnson at the 4 Letters says that this was only the 9th game as VAR for Tim Robinson, who is a recent appointment to the Premier League list. In those previous 8 matches, he had only 1 error to his name, the failure to award a penalty to Nottingham Forest against West Ham back in February. So there you go.
I just don't think this is – I think it's fair to say this is not a clear and obvious error.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it was because there was no – I mean, there wasn't a header, right? And so I think that would be that it didn't hit his shoulder. So from there, it's clear and obvious it did not hit a truly playable part of the ball, right? It's not obvious that it hit a playable part of the body. And to Alex's point, I think he's confusing the guidelines for the actual rule. And it doesn't touch the skin. Well, one, I don't think that's necessarily cut and dry either. I don't think you can definitively say it doesn't touch a skin. Again, it seems like it hits the bottom of the shirt sleeve, which, by that point, it probably could touch skin because, things are malleable. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
And then further, again, it's not just the shirt sleeve. That's just a good way for us to kind of look at things through a framework. It's not necessarily the actual boundary line. And I know that confuses some people, but that just is what it is. It looks like to me it hits below the armpit, which doesn't necessarily mean the skin, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm sure that's how they explained it to the Premier League managers, and so that's where he is confused. That said, you cannot score with your arm. You cannot score with your hand. And so when we have a goal that is scored by arm or hand, we're going to be more scrutinous.
Well, according to Alex, screwdelicious.
Screwdelicious.
Yeah, I think that screwdelicious that might be another term that we use. So screwdelicious.
Screwdelicious definition makes it. Boys
see, yeah, see,
got Fergie going on in here now.
Screwdelicious definition. Yeah, see. This is why we do this, so we can expand our vocabulary and we can all become smarter. Incident number 2 on tape, and we're gonna hear from Danny Cruz, the head coach at Lou City. In the USL Championship, and I went back to get the full grid. In USL Championship this past weekend, you end up with a red card in FC Tulsa, Detroit City. You end up with a red card, Lou City and Hartford Athletic. So that's 2 matches. You end up with red cards for both Charleston and Orange County. And it was 2-0 Orange County at the time of their red card. By the time it was done, you end up with a red card on each team. You finish 10-10. Charleston wins 6-0. So that's 4 reds. You end up with a red card in New Mexico United and Colorado Springs Switchback. So that's 5. Then you end up with a red card, Monterey Bay and El Paso Locomotive. So that's 6 red cards in 5 matches this past weekend in USL Championship. Now, in the Lou City match, Danny Cruz, afterward, he ended up getting a 2-1 loss to Hartford. So Danny Cruz, less than happy about what happened in the match. So here's what Danny Cruz said post-match after the game, and there's some pretty damning stuff in here. It's 2 sound bites pushed together by our friends at WDRB TV in Louisville. It's about 2 minutes and 19 seconds. So here's what Danny Cruz said with 2 questions in his post-match press conference.
Yeah, I will say I was extremely proud of the mentality of the group, the work rate. It's never easy to be down a man for 60 minutes. Obviously, I felt certainly that the level tonight from the referee crew was below the level of expectation at the professional league. And this for me is a huge problem. I'll tell you, you had a referee tell Adrian Perez to fuck off. I got sent off for literally clapping and telling Aiden that he'd done well to earn the foul in the corner. I didn't say a word to the 4th official until the 20th minute, 22nd minute to be exact, and got officially warned. And this is not a standard that I think is acceptable at our level. At the end of the day, I don't ever talk about the referees in these press conferences. I don't ever want there to be excuses for a poor result. but I did feel that my group left everything they could on the field, and they were hard done by tonight. There is a process where we go through the report. I've had really good dialogue with Pro over the last few weeks. I have felt that there's been improvement in certain areas, but again, the fourth official tonight, 20 minutes into the game, I had not said one word to him, and I get a warning after asking him about a call, and all that I was looking for was communication on what the call was, and there was a clear penalty in the first half. I've already looked back at it 3 times, but it seemed that our players couldn't get a call tonight. And for the AR2 to tell a player to fuck off, I have a real problem with that. And we're going to file the report. We're going to go through Pro. We're going to go through the league, see what comes of it. But ultimately, I don't believe that the crew was up to the standard that it needed to be at a level like ours.
So, Jarrett, for those that may not know about Danny Cruz, could you give a bit of an observational bio blast about Danny Cruz and Lou City and what he's been able to do, and personality-wise, how Danny Cruz operates from what you've seen over time from our coverage of USL Championship?
So that's pretty much how Danny Cruz operates right there. Danny Cruz is, I think, so what's fascinating to me is that, like, I think the James O'Connor hire from Orlando City from Lou City back in 2018, after Jason Christ.
Yeah.
I think that did damage to some people's perception of having a manager make that jump. But Danny Cruz came in and took over Lou City as a former player, like pretty young, after they had won a title, and the roster, like, manager left after they had won a title with an older roster. Came in, made some modifications to the style and the game model, but turned the roster over to younger style and adapted what he had to the players that he had, and has continued to consistently make the playoffs and challenge for trophies and been really, really good. Danny Cruz is one of my favorite managers in lower division United States soccer, and I will hear no slander personally. But yeah, that's pretty much what you're going to get from him. Guy's still pretty young, played not that long ago, and I think guys like that will go to bat very, very consistently for their players, for their guys. And yeah, if all of the allegations are what they are, if they are all true, I don't blame him for being upset. Like, if because we are hearing one side of the story.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that it's very easy for us to be angry after a game with officials, but I think we also do have to at times remind ourselves that when a manager gets on the podium and just starts cutting a promo, we are getting a side of the story.
Yes.
We are not privy to the post-match report that is written up by the head official or any comments or any of that sort of thing, unless, of course, you or Jeff Cameron decide to storm into the referee's locker room after the game, only get suspended for a couple of games, and then bitch and moan your way into a lower suspension.
Yeah, you could have been Matt Miazga, yes, absolutely.
Or Matt Miazga. I'm sorry, it was Matt Miazga.
Well, it could have been either one of those guys, to be quite honest.
It really could have been. Dude, I'm still pissed that, like, Matt Miazga was not given, like, a bigger, like, frying pan over the head from the league on that. Also, shout out to Cincinnati fans for belly aching all week about the referees in Miami because they lost 2-0 to Miami in a game where Miami got a red card.
Yes.
And you're still bitching about the officials.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like you are Steph Curry's wife.
So Bart, you got a lot to talk about here. First off, after Danny Cruz. We'll get into Miami and Cincinnati since Jarrett brought that up. Well, that'll be next. Let me write it down so I don't forget. So Danny Cruz, obviously cutting a promo like that after a match. Initial thoughts, and I'm sitting here and I'm scrubbing the league highlights trying to find out. All we see is the red card in the 29th minute, basically, of Adrian Perez. We don't see the why, but it looked something dissent-ish. Yeah. So that's where we are with the red card with 30 minutes in for Lou City. So what Danny Cruz said in those two sound bites was damning across the board for this crew.
Yeah. I think a lot of times, as Jarrett said, when you hear a coach say something or speak out like this, it is one side of the story. Now, there probably is basis for disgruntlement. I do not, sorry, Danny, believe that you did not say a single word to the fourth official or any official, by the way, because it doesn't just have to be directed.
He took a vow of silence, Bart.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't buy that it took you 20 minutes before you started talking to the referees. I just don't. I'm sorry. I've been around this game long enough. The coaches start chirping before the damn game begins. Don't pee on my shoe and tell me it's raining. Okay.
You could have said piss. That's okay.
I already broke the filter. It's fine.
Yeah. Don't piss on my shoe and tell me it's raining.
There you
go. Atlanta United, Garth Lagerway telling me doing that to us right now.
There you go.
There are obviously, if a referee told a player to F off,
yes,
that is a problem, because obviously a referee would not be a player would not be allowed to say that to a referee, and a referee should not be saying that to a player. If that is true, if that happened, which at this point is a he said, and not even a he said, it's just a he said.
Right.
Then if that did happen, then yes, that referee deserves to be punished in some way, shape, or form, probably suspended, and, reevaluated for their fit and competence for this level. Mm-hmm. That said, referees are going to have bad nights. Players are going to have bad nights. Coaches are going to have bad nights, right? You lost 2-1 on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you feel some type of way about your loss, which is valid. You're allowed to be mad about your loss. Something that I do feel strongly about, though, is when you lose and you are, even if referees do not just give red cards, okay? They just don't. I'm sorry. I know this defeats this entire narrative he's bringing up. Players put themselves in positions to receive some sort of admonishment and punishment from referees. By word or act, they do this to themselves. I know this is shocking to everyone who's ever played.
Wait,
but
the players
do this to themselves. And as much as I want to, I think, again, you need to investigate the report that a referee cursed at a player. That is uncalled for. Yeah. You should not be doing that. If that happened, this referee needs to be completely removed from USL competition for a period of time that they deem correct.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, when you lose a soccer game, it is most likely your own damn fault.
Go down a man in the 29th. Goal gets scored in the 82nd. Danny Cruz, by the way, did get a red card in the 66th minute. So he
only said one word to the referee the whole night. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so he got a red in the 66th.
Depends on what the word was.
Yes.
Well, that's the other thing, Jarrett. Right? Like, I mean, they're yeah, right. You're 100% right, though. I mean, it depends on what was said. I mean, if you say nothing all game, but all of a sudden you start, your one word is an expletive or a slur, then yeah, you're going to get a red card.
Yeah, you're quoting a menu at a French restaurant. Baguette.
Yeah.
There's your yellow, sir.
Yeah.
Then before we get into Miami and Cincinnati, I have incident number 3, and this comes from the college ranks. I don't know if you knew about this one, but this is women's soccer from the weekend, Rutgers and UMass. I don't know if you know about this one, but this
I
happened.
saw the video.
Okay, so you saw the video. So you know what happened here. Here's the play-by-play call from the A10 match, Rutgers and UMass, once again, courtesy of our friends at ESPN Plus, among other places.
Mentioned earlier today as well in the first half that the half is one light today with Madison Richard, formerly Madison Tiernan. And oh boy, we've got fisticuffs on the far side as a couple of players are fighting here. And a big on the far side. And now a lot on the shoulders of this referee. All eyes on Stephanie McFarland. And this might take some figuring out. Here's a look at what happened. Clear foul committed on the far side by German. UMass trying to take it quickly, and it's Lamond and German who are getting into it. Oh boy, punches thrown in both directions, including an uppercut there, and oh boy, that is...
Yeah, so you
We
end
don't
up...
get enough uppercuts in sports fights.
No,
we don't.
What you ended up with was, for those that didn't see the video, you ended up with a foul from behind. Then you end up with a player for UMass returning to the one-on-one situation. So foul by Rutgers from behind. UMass player goes down. Another UMass player comes in to have a discussion with the Rutgers player. You end up with, pushing and shoving, and then the Rutgers player with a belly-to-belly suplex of the UMass player onto the ground there in the match. And so you end up with that kind of chaos after a foul. So player sticks up for UMass player, gets a belly-to-belly suplex for their troubles with punches and all this kind of stuff. What was the wildest situation that you've ever had that you had to take control of? I don't know if it rivaled that, but what was the wildest situation you've ever had?
No, I haven't had a judo over body throw like that in a game. But no, listen. You referee enough, you get fights. We had one this weekend in a U16, 15 or 16 game. I forget how old the dumbasses were, but you get into a sport and you've got people running around. Their heart rates are elevated and their awarenesses and senses are at high alert. People start fighting with each other.
Yes.
The worst I've seen is what?
I love that it's immediately where you went, like 15 or 16, whatever the dumbasses were. Correct, because we were all 15 or 16.
Yeah.
We were all almost certainly dumbasses.
Uh-huh.
Listen, I do almost exclusively 15 to 19s. So which dumbassery do you want me to talk about? Because it happens on a weekly basis,
Look, the fact that anybody makes it to 20 in one piece and hasn't accidentally killed themselves is a minor miracle.
Yes.
And just should be celebrated.
We're lucky for the advances in medical treatments because some of these people are actively trying to hurt themselves by fighting with other people. I think I've had the benches clearing thing. I've had ADASL is bad because everyone has to stick up for their brother, and I'm like, no, your brother did a dumb thing. You don't have to stick up for him. He was being dumb. But you got to clear the benches for that because and then you got to sort through okay, are we carding every single person who left the bench, because then we're not going to be playing a soccer game after this. Do you give a red card to every single player who was involved? So in this instance, obviously the Rutgers player deserves a red card. I mean, a standing ovation, but also a red card. The UMass player who initiated that probably also should get a red card too, because they're the one who started that confrontation.
Yeah, I think you ended up with a red on the side by the time it was over.
Yeah, and then I don't think there was anyone else. I think this one was rather isolated to the two players. I don't think anyone else truly deserved any real misconduct. But this was. I've never seen this. I've never seen an uppercut and a sumo or judo throw. That was
Yeah.
that was new.
Yeah, and that brings me to my overarching question here. With all of the different leagues and levels going on right now, and if I'm not mistaken, it's Major League Soccer, it is USL Championship, it's USL League One, it's USL Super League, it's college, both men's and women's, and a lot of different divisions going at it in the NCAA and NAIA pyramid. How much of a concern is it for you that there are not enough officials / qualified officials that are there to call all of these matches, which are great for the game? Do not misunderstand where I'm going here. It's fantastic that we have all of these different levels going on right now. You get pro all the way down the pyramid, fantastic cities, great universities, all of these different matchups. How much of a concern is it for you and your fellow officials that there aren't enough officials and enough qualified officials to call all of these matches that are going on, not just right now, but as the year goes on too, especially when you get into the high school game after the turn of the calendar? How much of a concern is it right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is something that we deal with on a weekly basis. People who want to be part of the game. Okay. How do I want to move into that complaint? Anyway, we need referees. That's just the end all be all of it, because the problem is you have a lot of the way the refereeing kind of works is you have players who are refereeing, right? So you have the 14 through 18-year-old kid whose mom and dad wants them to make some gas money because they're tired of, giving them $20, $40 now every single time they leave the house. So you have that level of kid. Most of the time, now this has changed a little bit because I did referee with several college kids this past weekend, but a lot of times you go to college, well, you're not refereeing anymore. And to be quite honest, that is the perfect age to referee the younger high-level youth games, right? If you're talking like the academy to like U15, those college kids are perfect because they are experienced enough at refereeing, fit enough to keep up with all the gameplay, but also they're still growing, but they need good games to continue to grow. And then you have older guys. Now, there are a number of us who have been refereeing for a good long while, but I'm an anomaly in the refereeing world where I started at 15 and I'm still doing it. Now, I even took a 6-year break because I was obviously playing.
So you're 22 is what you're saying.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I've been doing this for, in theory, 20 years. And that is that is not something that is typical within our referee community, because a lot of people stop after the age of 18 because they go on to college. And I get it. The last thing you want to do is wake up at 9 a.m. or be at a field at 9 a.m. on Saturday or Sunday when you're in college, because you're probably hungover and you deserve to be so. That's what college is for. Yeah. But, I used to referee a lot in Athens, which I don't know if you know this, John, but there's a big university in Athens.
Yeah, I've heard, yeah.
We didn't really have a lot of UGA kids refereeing. We had some grad students. One of the guys I used to referee a lot with, he was an athletic training, some sort of medical something within sports grad student, and he and I worked together a lot. But we just didn't have a whole lot of UGA kids, if you will.
Yeah.
Refereeing in Athens. Now, this past weekend, I had some Georgia State kids refereeing here at Inter Atlanta, and I've had some like Tech or State kids referee with me before, but it's not a lot, especially in the city where we have, it feels like 27 universities and higher education facilities. We have a lot, right? And we just don't have that. So there is a gap in the, let's say 18 to 30-year-old age group, where you are kind of peak fitness and also young enough maybe, to relate still to the kids and not feel like every single time someone talks to you, they're being disrespectful, as I say some of my older colleagues kind of get. We have a lot of people who We have a lot of needs for referees, but the reality also, John, is we have a lot of needs for everything in the soccer landscape. And this is where I'll get on my soapbox and say, if all you do is get on Twitter and complain about soccer, complain about US soccer, complain about pro rel, complain about pay for play, complain about this, complain about that, but all you're doing is complaining on Twitter, you're not helping anything. Where the hell are you? Because we need your help at every level of this game, be it signing up to be a referee. You get paid to do that. It's kind of fun. You get to stay in shape. You get paid. We need help with coaching. I'm sure some of the coaches in the chat will attest to that as well. You know, we need help at every level. It can be as simple as just volunteering to be the field marshal for the day, or volunteering to help cut grass. You know, I mean, in Atlanta, we're lucky that we have a lot of the infrastructure is kind of taken care of for us. But there's a lot of places in this country, John, where I'm not joking. You got to have someone go out there and cut the grass. You got to go have and you got to have parents to go out there and line the fields. You don't even have to be a parent. There's a local soccer club near you who probably needs help with something. Go help. It's not just referees. It's not just coaching. It's everything. And this sport in this country will only be good enough as it has the support from the normal people. Okay. If you want to complain about Cindy Parlow-Cohen and JT Batson and Matt Crocker and all these people who are dealing with a whole lot of stuff, if you want to deal about XYZ, ABC, ECNL, RPL, SAPL league, right? All these people complain about why we got all these many different leagues. You're not doing anything if all you're doing is getting online and complaining. And I'll be honest, a lot of these people don't even go to support the local soccer club, even though they rail against MLS and the, you know, and they think pro rel is some sort of, I don't know, silver bullet for everything that's ever been a problem. They don't even do as much to go support their local soccer team in support of the promotion relegation argument. So if you're in this chat and you feel like you need to do something, you know, see if your local club needs a volunteer of some sort. But that said, also, John, there's some ways that we need to restructure, and this is the problem, how we look at the refereeing landscape, because a lot of clubs have to have a certified referee for these under 10 games. Yeah. I got to be real honest, John. You don't need me there. You know what they're doing at the, 9, 8, 9, 6, 4. You're herding cattle.
Yeah, you're right.
You know,
it's a rugby scrum.
Yeah, and so what are we doing there? We're not calling fouls, you know, because half the time it's not even a foul; someone just falls over. You know, but the fact that a lot of clubs need that because some parent gets pissy because their kid got hurt in a game, because heaven forbid they get hurt by going play a contact sport, and now all of a sudden we got to have a certified referee there, and it's just like, this is a waste of my time. It's a waste of my skills. It's a waste of my money that I put in to, become a referee. And so, I think one of the solutions that we've seen in a lot of clubs is having junior referee programs where you have a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid who goes down and referees the U8 and below, because again, you're just there to point kids in the right direction, make sure they're scoring on the right goal on occasion, and saying, that kind of stuff. If you want a referee to be in charge of a U8 game, then we're vastly off course.
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing, is we need to reevaluate how do we get referees into the pool, and how do we use them wisely. But yeah, I mean, look, the reality is we are behind. The reason, okay. I've mentioned it twice already, so we're just going to talk about it. If you want to talk about promotion relegation, right, which I think, whether or not you're for or against it, the reality that you need to understand is the infrastructure is not there. And by the way, it doesn't magically get there if you just say, hey, we have promotion relegation. All of a sudden, the next day, we don't have 700 newly qualified referees to take on all of the professional level matches within that pyramid. We don't suddenly have enough qualified coaches to not only just be at the top coaching the first teams, but also all the subsequent academy teams that you supposedly think are just going to also pop up out of nowhere because we suddenly make promotion relegation a reality. There is not enough support to make soccer work at a large scale. right now in this country, because we need people who love the game to stay involved. We talk about we have the highest number of youth soccer participants in this country, more than any other country in the world, right? That is a stat that people throw out. Why can't our men's soccer team with their third choice U23 squad not make it farther in the Olympics? We got 1 million kids playing soccer every day. Or whatever the stat they want to say. We got more kids playing youth soccer than Morocco has people. Whatever stat they always like to throw out. Problem is we don't keep these kids past 16, 17, 18 years old. Maybe they play high school and they're done after that. They're not even involved in coaching. They're not involved in refereeing. Most of them aren't even playing in adult leagues. They're done. Until we fix that problem, your little pro-rel fantasy doesn't work.
All right.
Sorry.
No. That's why I wanted to, because of all of the different levels that we had discussions on this morning, the professional, the collegiate, and the second division. That was why I wanted to, with Super League. Sorry, with Super
Alex, League. I have to tell Alex. So I played a game. It was like U12, maybe. I was still playing. Like, it was a select game. Like, we're talking academy level stuff. Played out in Monroe, where they had like skydiving. You want to talk about the chaos? And just no soccer was being played at this point during this game because we had a skydiving crew come down.
Wow.
It was the funniest thing. It was amazing. But yeah, like at some point you're just like, soccer is not the most important thing going on at this point in time, and that's fine.
Yeah, especially at that age. I forgot to discuss with you the Joelinton hog tying incident, where it was called a clothesline on the air, but you had Joelinton buzzing by Neto, and basically just kind of does the professional tackle kind of thing and slows him down, kind of hog ties him and spins him a little bit, and folks were saying that should have been a red for unsporting behavior, and you got no red card from Joelinton on Neto. What was your thought on that one? As he thinks.
Yeah, I think this is one of those where I understand why there's not a red card.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of it's a continuum, right? Yeah. It's not it's not necessarily always a step on the ladder.
Uh-huh.
And I think you're also remembering that red cards and yellow cards are forms of managing a match.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I understand maybe why a red card wasn't given.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe should it have been.
Yeah. So
depends on the referee.
Yeah, it does. FC Cincinnati and Miami. I know that was going to be a part of the discussion quickly here as well. There are some parts of the Messi and Friends roster that are very, very physical in their application of the laws of the game. And for some strange reason, you could get you get 2 quick yellows, it turns into a red, and Cincinnati still can't take advantage of it. The last 4 times that they had a man advantage, they only scored 1 goal and didn't get a whole lot of points out of those last 4 matches. But you end up with another situation where Thomas Avalos ends up getting 2 yellow cards, quick succession, which he seems to be very good at, and go a man down.
Yeah. Again, 2 yellow cards is usually not the referee's fault. That's all I'm saying.
Strange.
I know we can talk about were both deserved, but most of the time they both were. Mm-hmm. And if you want extra grace after you've already been given a yellow card, I'm sorry, you've used up your grace.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so let's see. Avalos ends up getting a yellow in the 11th, and then he gets his second yellow 30 minutes later, and he's out in the 42nd. And so, so 30 minutes apart, Thomas Avalos once again gets
is that his second or third time this year?
I want to say that's his. I want to say third.
Because he had one almost the first or second match week, I feel like. So he set his standard pretty early on in the season.
Why? Yes, he did. I mean, that's you're at that right back. So let's say match log. Let's see if let's check the match log before you get out of here. And let's see.
I do want to say though, John, I think if you're looking at referees and using that as some sort of outlet for your frustration about Miami or the LA teams getting what is very clearly preferential treatment from the league. I'm sorry, it just is. Same with like Manchester City, right? One, that was a penalty kick. Would that have made Luton a winner? No, or not Luton. Sorry, Ipswich a winner.
Yes.
No. There's no guarantee that had the referees, I don't know, been nicer to Cincinnati, I don't know, maybe they would have given a red card per se to a Miami player.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait. That this game would have played out differently, right? But using the referees as the conduit for your anger about the league allowing Miami and the LA teams to have some creative accounting, creative bookkeeping.
There you go.
Some great storytelling on their expense reports, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the place to put that. I was dealing with this situation the other day. There's a club that, in their defense, they're trying to give kids a chance to play. And that's where, as a referee, at this level, I have problems with being super high policing of it. But essentially, they had like 23 players on a match day roster. Well, you're only allowed 18.
I'm saying.
But now I got to cut, I'm like, hey, coach, you can't have, like, I just checked in 20 players. You can't have 20 players. You got to cut 18. You got to cut 2 to get down to 18. And now I look like the bad guy because I'm telling this coach that he's got to pick 2 players who can't play. These teams that are trying to play outside of the rules need to be held accountable. But it's not the referee's job to hold Miami accountable because they have, give or take, 7 designated players. It's not the referee's job to hold LA Galaxy accountable because Marco Royce and Ricky Puig and all these other players who may or may not be at a designated player level are considered whatever they're considered.
High TAM.
High TAM. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Tomas Avilas, second time this year that he's done. It was June 16th against Philadelphia in a win for Messi and friends, and he was there for 84 minutes before it happened. So he spent twice as much time getting his red back in June than he did against Cincinnati, where it was.
What I think it was maybe that early season one was where he didn't get anything called, and we were like, "What the hell happened here?"
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. It was whatever that nasty challenge from behind was.
It might have actually been the Atlanta match back in May where that happened.
I don't think it was that one.
Oh, well, then it could. Let's see. So let's look at his reds. Let's look at his yellows. So it was May 26th against Vancouver. It was May 30th against Inter Miami. Against Atlanta. Then it was against Charlotte on July 4th. So those are the other 3 instances where Tomas Avilas got yellow cards, but no second yellow card. So there you go. Your Tomas Avilas card update.
Yeah. Anyway, yes. The LA and Miami teams get special treatment from the league. I'm not saying anything I think controversial.
I don't think you're in a minority opinion. No.
Yeah. But that doesn't necessarily mean the referees are giving them special treatment. I mean, I'll speak again to the Man City thing. Mm-hmm. The referee didn't give Man City a penalty. They had to use VAR to get back to it. But there was one in the 3rd minute on Holland that probably also could have been a penalty kick if you really wanted to be super policing of it. And sometimes, there's just a lot of players running around at a very high speed, and sometimes things happen that you can't always get to.
Yes.
That's why we do have VAR for those clear and obvious errors. Not everything's clear and obvious.
A
lot of it is a lot of gray area.
Yes. So what's going on with Soccer for USPOD?
Well, we were going to record last week, but then Poch wasn't signed. So we didn't want to record about just theorizing about it happening. But I do have it on good authority that there will be a roster dropping this week for the U.S. men's national team. As you know, John, they do play games next weekend.
Yes.
So next Saturday, the 7th and the 10th. Mm-hmm. So that roster will be coming out this week. So we'll be recording that kind of reaction episode. We know that and blanking on the name of the U20 coach now is going to be Mikey Varas. Sorry. There we go. Yeah. The Mikey Varas will be coaching the team during the September window, which is probably going to happen regardless, just because as much as I don't like wasting a window, you weren't likely to get a coach in place by the September window ready to physically coach the team.
Right.
That said, Todd, pay up. Do a service to your country.
Pay the man.
Pay him.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yes, Bowley Clear Lake, get it figured out.
Yeah.
As always, my friend, it's great to catch up with you on Monday to go wandering through the world of what it's like to have cards in your pocket and a whistle around your neck and what you think about certain calls and things like that, and national team news and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, looking forward to seeing the roster drop with Mikey Veras and what it's going to look like as they get ready for Canada and the other matchup that's attached next week in New Zealand. So yeah, it'll be a hoot to see how it looks, and you will discuss as you always do. Thanks as always, my friend, and we will catch up with you soon. Unless, of course, I put out the bat signal and go, "Oh my God, I need you to come in on an emergency basis because this happened."
I mean, I feel like we're just waiting for that news to happen that Poch is signed. You know, I think the thing is the reporting is done. They're like, well, we just gotta wait for them and Chelsea to get it figured out, and then once that happens, we're good.
Figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out, Todd. Okay, I'm sorry, I have to say this out loud. Yeah. Whenever we talk about Todd or Todd Bowley, and like specific to this, we're like, pay the man, Todd, get it done, Todd. I just keep going back to the National Lampoon Christmas Vacation scene.
Absolutely.
Why is the carpet all wet, Todd? I don't know, Margot. Anyway.
So you're saying I need to get that drop, is what you're saying?
Maybe.
Let's say, why is the carpet wet, Todd? All right. So yeah, anything involving Chelsea. Sorry, Michael Head.
Yeah.
Will be why is the carpet wet, Todd? Yeah. All right. Let me go through all the news of the day before we get out of here at 11:05. Thanks as always, my friend.
All right. Cheers, y'all.
All right. That's Bart. He's going to drink coffee.